you are going to fight so many things that are yourself that you don't realize at this moment. And you're going, no, John, I know who I am. No, you don't. I promise you, keep
No.
asking what makes you happy. Keep asking you why you keep doing the certain things you're doing. And even if you don't have an answer, trust your feelings on what that triggers the moment you ask yourself that question.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Behind the Scenes. I am really excited to have my guest, John Barchard. Did I say that right?
You nailed it. That was perfect.
Oh, perfect. He is a fellow PA resident, just like me, but on the other side of the state in Philly. And he is a 22-year vet of the radio, television, and movie industry. So he has a ton of great insight for us today to talk about helping business owners sell, advertise, and distribute the products and services that they truly care about so that they can make more money and live a life that they love, which is what we're all about here on the channel. So thank you so much for joining us, John.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and yeah, we can get into a lot this morning because that's my main philosophy on kind of like where we're at in 2023, 2024 and beyond is just, you know, I think it's true in basically every part of business, but ours when we're working with a lot of creators, a lot of media, a lot of trying to figure out how to get messages out there now that TV and radio is kind of like going away more or less, which I never thought would kind of happen in my lifetime. But
Right.
it's a big part of just realizing that you don't need a ton anymore. That used to be like everybody's goal was to build, to keep climbing, to keep scaling, to do this. And I'm at a point in my life, and I don't know if you are too, Emma, where I'm happy with like 10 really great clients a year or 5 or whatever it is. Like I love things that are in my control that I know I can boost. And like you were saying, I have to love it. Like I have sold so many things I haven't liked over the years that
Right.
when you hit it 40, you just know what you want and what you don't want a lot of the time, and you don't realize that half of the stuff that maybe your employers were telling you or former clients at old agencies or whatever it is, excuse my language, but they're all full of shit. Like it's just
Yep.
I they're there to keep you at the job and to not have you branch out into other things. And I always thought that was a weird thing working for people. I didn't understand that
Mhm.
until later on in life. But I just feel, especially digital creators are way more powerful than they know right now. And I think it's a
Right.
good thing to keep echoing. We keep hearing that, but what does that actually sound like? What does it look like? And monetarily, how does that look in your bank account? So to me, the world of advertising is what we're kind of conquering in like, what does this new thing work and how does this play out? I
Yeah.
don't think direct selling is as effective as it once was, but it is
Right.
also necessary. So like, and then the other thing that we like to try and solve is like, where do you belong? Are you a podcast? Are you a TikToker? Are you a YouTuber? Are you a television show? Are you a movie? Are you this? We can do
Mm.
so many different things without big studios, without large corporations, without technologies to a point where you and I are having a great conversation. I don't think anybody would program this, but you and I
Yeah.
want to have this. So those things exist now. We call those niches, but it's just community. It's just an audience. And with the old school of media, you were guessing half of the time. And now you know exactly who your community and your clients are. You can, get very
Yep.
finite details through data and all that other stuff too. So yeah, I don't know why we waste so much time working with people we don't want to work with, even though the money is really good. Because in the end,
Yes.
you're not going to want to do that anyway. So I know that's a lot to start on an intro, Emma, but those are my
No,
those are my thoughts, and that's kind of
that's
that's how I
okay.
approach a lot of things that we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of like go off of that instead of letting you kind of tell your story first. I want to pick some of those things out that you said just so we don't lose them. But when you said like direct selling is kind of on its way out, and you know, how do you, because there's a lot that you said in there that some people don't think about as avenues of connecting with other people or that like, oh, am I a show, or am I this, or am I that? So how do you kind of help your clients slash audience or everybody understand like kind of like standing out, because we are inundated with so much information on the daily, and like it just seems that people want shorter and quicker content or quicker like videos because of the reels and the shorts and things like that. So kind of like, can you speak to that trend and how we differentiate ourselves?
100%. And especially like, I think people have an idea of who they are walking into that new social thing that they want to do, or that new podcast thing that they want to do. But the rules that are told to people are so wrong. Like there are, I would even say the trend of like, actually, you got to have shorter content to keep people's attention. That is the biggest crock of shit in the world. And that is like not true at all. You need to be
Really?
a phenomenal editor, because you could record
Mm,
for 2 minutes or 20 hours. If you're not putting the best thing back out there to your audience to keep them engaged for 3 straight minutes, 5, 7, 20, whatever it is. I keep hearing that as a trend. And that's one of the things that I would immediately tell if like walked into my office and said, I'm going to start an hour-long podcast. And I'll be like, why would you want to start there? Why? Like, you can, even if it's just audio, we deal with people that have a 3 to 5 minute podcast a week because they just need to get
yeah.
all the information out to their employees, or all the information out to their clients, or we automatically think that you have to be this super creative thing around whatever the message is you're trying to deliver, and I just don't think that's the case at all. If you are not having a good conversation, then it's going to be short. If you are not
Yep.
if you don't have a good movie, then I'm probably only going to pay attention for 15 minutes and find something else. Like, the part of actually caring about the work that comes out instead of the quick TikTok, Instagram grab, which there's nothing wrong with that either, by the way. But if there's a problem and a disconnect, if you're going, I want the TikTok attention on this podcast feed, those are two different
Mhm.
entities. And I think oftentimes it's just we're trying to get the social person to our podcast, to our website, to or whatever, and that takes forever. You might be really
Yeah.
popular on social media, but your website clicks might not be, and then you got to ask yourself why. So getting attention is pretty easy these days. It is. Algorithms help
Yep.
you. Saying absurd things will always help you get attention. All those things. But if you don't know how to grab that attention, put it into your business, and repeat it, then you're going to be scrambling all the time. I actually, Emma, I give you a ton of credit, because you're doing everything that people usually don't do, which is record a lot of these things ahead of time, make sure that our conversation is good, like that people are interested in what we're talking about. And you know exactly how to promote this because we've already had it. You know what to say. And oftentimes I don't think that happens. And, not knowing who you are and not planning for who you are is what leads to burnout in this stuff, for sure.
Oh yeah, there's no people sometimes aren't strategic or planning with their content. It's just like getting put out there, and then they're burning out because they just feel like they constantly have to put things out. And like with a lot of my clients, they don't really consider or capitalize, I would say, on repurposing, the power of like taking the longer
Mhm.
form content and breaking it down. But I really like what you said about the editor, because I think that's a great tip. And the fact that you're calling out the short form content, because I really believe that the short form content should just be pushing to your longer form, like down the line. That's kind of how I use my like reels and shorts and clips, is like I want to push them to, you want to guide them, and the audience, I should say, not just them, for anyone who's watching is like, what are you talking about? But guide your audience, guide your people to where you want to go. And it is truly like a craft, because I do see some affiliate marketers who have really done well in this craft. So I would love to hear your opinion and your take on the content marketing phenomenon, affiliate marketing piece, because I've just seen a lot of women pick it up, stay-at-home moms. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on the impact of that, future state of that, trend, so to speak.
The thing that I keep saying is you are your own television or radio station. And if you feel that way, then the phone becomes a little easier. Your phone is your transistor, right? So that's just pushing that out. In terms of like, it's absolutely necessary because again, it's opportunity that's in front of us. So that's I guess why I'm so excited by you mentioned bringing me on. I've been going through this for 22 years. Okay. I am like one of the OG podcasters of podcasting. Back when the iPhone, just before it came out, I got into podcasting in Los Angeles. And when I saw that and I go, oh man, you're going to have a bunch of independent radio stations again. Now it took 20 years to get to this point now, but we're here. Television and radio are gone. I know that's like, duh, John, we know that. It's like, no. You don't understand the impact of the opportunity here. Guys like me that would go on television and promote products on their shows or whatever it is on radio and promote their shows is a huge economy. Like it's enormous. I think when we look at, a lot of, I'm guessing a lot of entrepreneurs you talk to are a little younger, correct? Like we're still trying to find our footing, but the older entrepreneurs that have been here for a while that are scared as hell about like, even if it's not your own content and you're still trying to maneuver what that is, take your content to whatever your older generation clients are. And if you don't have any, start finding them because they need the most help right now. The flyers, the pamphlets, the usual stuff, the circulars, like all the things that made certain industries go are non-existent and they have no idea how to talk to Instagram or TikTok. So even if you are kind of reality showing it and saying like, hey, here's this business I'm working with. They're so great at this, this, and this because that's what I'm working with them. And look, their product is in here, here, and here. And you're basically promoting them as a client. You're getting content out of it. It goes on both of your pages. Like those are not only money makers for you, but that's exactly what everybody's looking for. And I would say in some cases, I know this sounds absurd, but social equity. Have you heard of this, Emma?
No, I don't think
This
I have.
new
Or
trend?
maybe like in a blip.
So social equity basically means all the stuff that you and I know how to do in this format is worth equity in someone's company because they don't know how to do this. And they know that the moment that they do this, like if you find a business that has a good product, it's solid, their business plan is great, and the literal only thing, and this is rare, but like the literal only thing that's missing is their marketing, and you're going, well, you don't have to pay me a monthly because you're a newer business or whatever it is. Why don't I just partner with you for 2 or 3 years? You give me the certain amount of rev share and go from there. And granted, that is a risk for you for sure. So you got to vet everybody very carefully. And some of those things don't end up working out, but the ones that do make up for the ones that don't. And if you have 2 or 3 of those, now you have 2 businesses all of a sudden. And one of them is getting paid attention to by a whole bunch of other people. So I guess when it's a big topic in terms of like, hey, where's the content marketing going? It's never leaving. Like this is the boom that for the next 10 years, if you have been in this industry at all, congratulations, you're about to get paid. And if you're not, then you are either not good at this or you're seriously not selling how good you are. It is, I can't stop hearing yes, Emma, to be honest with you. So I want to encourage you and everybody else to keep pushing with all the clients that you have and see how you can involve them in your content, because that's just going to make you way more money a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think that's really good. One, good insight and good advice about, where the industry is going, how to capitalize on it. And so I think this is also a good time to transition back to the question of, how did you get into your own agency? What made you start SBX Productions? And kind of, because you already kind of mentioned, like, you've been in the game since podcasting started. So kind of what made you take that leap from business, or not like an employee to business owner?
It is, I've always probably been an independent person, as you can kind of tell. But I was just to button it up as fast as I possibly could. I was a kid that grew up in Iowa that was a rock DJ who was a drummer in a band and wanted to tour and be a DJ for the rest of his life.
Oh,
Somehow at 18 or 17, I lied about my age, got into a local rock station in Iowa, got a full-time job 6 months later, and then I looked at myself and I said, well, why would I want to go to college? So I was in a band, was doing that, and just continued that journey in a bunch of different facets. So like, ooh, excuse me, as I'm knocking over my water bottle. But I ended up really pursuing voiceover, and that was one of like my biggest passions after radio and the band kind of fizzled out. We weren't that good to begin with anyway, but I went up to New York. I learned everything I could about doing commercial voiceover, and that was the people that are doing all the commercials and the movie trailers and all that stuff. I went to LA to pursue that and realized I was like, I still miss radio and I love it. So I ended up working with Ryan Seacrest and a whole bunch of other people at Kiss FM during the rise of like the first season of American Idol. So it was crazy to see this dude like run a million miles an hour between morning radio show, and doing American Idol. And that really inspired me. And I was going, man, I was like, this guy just cooks, you know? And then that kind of just spiraled back into wanting me to go back to Philadelphia when I was about 30. I started my own Eagles podcast with a couple other people with a really big blog that blew up. Ended up being one of the best Eagles podcasts, in the world, just because we were the only one. But it got us radio jobs here in Philadelphia at 2 sports stations. WIP was the last stop of mine here in Philadelphia as a host and a podcaster and all that. And to be very frank with you, the reason why the business started was for two of the reasons. One, I was miserable there. I had done so many things that I thought I'd be happy and be like, wait a minute, I made it to this thing. I did all this. Why am I not happy? And I fell out of love with how radio's being run. And then secondly, the pandemic came and that changed our entire industry. So I had been talking to a couple of different coworkers at WIP already, and we had gone through kind of the same process of our former boss, and we're really perturbed by like how things were going. And my job, I thought, was to take us kind of into the future, and they were more or less like, no, we just want to stay right here. So because of the pandemic, because of the schools closing down here in PA for an entire year and no real future, or like, I was like, what are we doing here? There's got to be a better way. Just like every other business, I think it's started. We're like, fuck this. We're going to do it the way we know that works. This is done. And y'all are just trying to hang on. And they still are. Like the radio stations are waiting to be bought. And I think also, side note on that, if you're listening or watching this at all, save your money and get ready to buy a radio station, because they're all going to fall apart. They're all going to go independent. Everyone's going to undervalue them again. And I think you yourself watching this could own a radio station for very, very cheap, almost like you're buying a blog. And I think it's going to be one of the most underutilized things in the world. But aside from that, the company is really a love letter to every person that has been through the stuff that we have been through, including getting hammered left and right with merger deals or contracts. And a lot of this experience that I was telling you earlier was actually prepping me for this moment right now. And I had no idea. I was the guy that did all the business. I was the guy that did all the sales. I was the guy that did all the reaching out for sponsors when we were a podcast. I was multifaceted during this thing because no one else knew how to do it. So I just said, F it, I'll do it. And I'm not good at every single thing. I'm clearly not good at every single thing. Knowing that now and being able to delegate that stuff has been awesome. So that's basically what this is. Everybody was doing it wrong. We wanted to do it correctly, healthily, and with like mental awareness moving forward at all facets, that is, I think a story that a lot of us tell, but it feels fucking awesome, Emma. That's all I can say. Everything's in our control. We know where we're going. We know where our problems are. So that's the basis of it. Yeah.
I think you speak to a point that needs to be said of, you're saying, everything's in our control, which I totally agree. As an entrepreneur, you have so much more control. But there are so many people who are probably listening to this that think, oh no, a 9 to 5, a company job is so much safer. But like you said, the pandemic really proved that that was not really the case. And or people who have lived through multiple recessions or multiple layoffs or things like that. Because I did see a ton of layoffs on my LinkedIn feed. I mean, I chose to leave my company during the pandemic on my own, that's when I started my business as well. And because I wanted to be at home with my kids. So I totally understand that piece, but like, how would you say you have more control over things now versus when you were in that 9 to 5? Because I think that's a point that people shy away from. They don't feel like they have control.
And I'll tell you the perfect story that I think would answer that question. So during that pandemic, I'm still trying to hold on to my job. And I think it's the most important thing to hold on to this job, right? Because like, hey, we don't know how long this is going to be. And in that moment, they start making cuts. They start, really paying attention to literally everything we're doing. At one point, I was making videos. Okay. And this is hilarious in retrospect. I'm making videos for the radio station to promote the radio station. They think that's not worth the company's time, which I'm going, okay, so I'm logging everything that I do, and I get a call from my boss, and he says, John, we're taking you off these 26 hours that you're doing the videos, where like it's done. And I'm about to think I'm going to go into panic, right? And this wave of relaxedness comes over my body the moment that happens, and that was really a funky feeling. And I go, wait a minute, I should be freaking out right now. Why do I feel better that this thing is no longer in my viewpoint? And that was the signal of going, oh man, you're just trying to hang on to this thing that doesn't make you happy out of pure fear. Right. And when this let go, your anxiety let go. And that was the moment that I go, I need to start the company. Because no one, unless you are in this incubated circle of whoever you're working for, and that's just true of any business, and that is small corporation, whatever, unless you're in that group, you're going to be fighting for the rest of your life. Two, the other reason is, I don't know if you feel this way, Emma, or if you feel this way listening or watching. There's a cap on the amount of money I can make for somebody.
Oh yeah.
And there's always an undervalue argument back and forth. There's always a union person, there's always a contract dispute. There's always this. I never wanted to go through that. If there's an opportunity for me to go make a $50,000 sale, I want to be able to grab as much of that $50,000 sale as I can, instead of getting pennies on the dollar for selling it to somebody else. So that's the thing. Most of the time, I think we're conditioned that the people we're working for know what they're talking about, have the greatest direction of all time. But Emma, you've probably seen and talked to a million businesses. That's not true even half of the time. There's always problem solving going on. There's always like, hey, we're going to go this way instead of that way. A new CEO comes in, a new ownership group comes in, a new this comes in. We're going to do this instead of this, a merger. We're going to do this instead of this. And now your job is gone, like that. So I would say there's just as much risk as going to work with somebody as delaying the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you could have started that thing, because what are you going to have if they take that away? Nothing. And if you're going to throw 401k in my face, or retirement plans or banks or anything like that, forget it. It's not going to be there. So I would say the fear. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Emma.
No, finish. No, you're fine.
No, I was just, the fear is what actually stops you from getting the money and the happiness you want. It's all fear-based. And I never really understood that about our working culture, but everything is fear-based.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it definitely is. Because when I left and I was 22 at the time, like I quit corporate before I really started, because I just was like you said, I knew I wasn't going to get a raise or a significant bump up, because I was low girl on the totem pole in a very male dominated field. And I was like, I'm literally bleeding money after like because I was a single mom at the time too. So I was bleeding $500 a month. I'm like, there's no hope for me to make more money here. There's no, whatever. So and people were like, don't you care about your 401k? You're not vested. You're not matched, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's $3,000 in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure I can make $3,000 back in a couple of years in my business and put it in there. But I'd rather be able, like you said, to say, okay, I know I have a expense. Like this is a perfect example. I want to buy one of these wagons for like these really expensive bougie wagons for the kids because I'm like, this is gonna make my life so much easier. So to me, I'm like, oh, I see that. I'm like, I'm just gonna make a $600 sale to cover that, and I have it in my power to go through and say, because I'm all about organization, keeping everything systematized. I can go through and be like, okay, these are my leads. These are people I've talked to. These are my like closest connections. You have just so much more control when it comes to you doing the sales, even if you are intimidated by it at first. And like you said, once you get to a certain point, you can delegate that out. But you having the know-how to do everything in your business makes you such a better CEO. Like you said, you're like, I'm not good at everything, but I just figured it out. That's, I think, such a key point of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And if you feel like you're doing that at your job a lot, like people go to you all the time to figure things out, then that should be another sign for you to be like, oh, wow, people come to me all the time to solve their problems. Let me write that down, and you, Emma, great point too, because like the wagon example is perfect. We're thinking about that right now. Like sometimes it's for good things. Sometimes that's for problem solving. We're like, all right, how do we make this thing go because we need it to go? All right, drop the price here. Let's see what happens. Yes, that works. Okay, now we can recoup this money that we wanted for the wagon or whatever it is. And that is opportunity. Like how often at your job could you go, I need this thing for my house. Well, I got to wait 5.5 weeks for these paychecks and spread that out. Conversations too will just lead to business. And that's something that you can't do as an employee either. Like it's just the unexpected leads can come out of nowhere. Some people, you could walk into a call and think it's a tiny job. And the next thing you know, they're gassing you up and be like, we want to pay you so much money to do all these things. You're like, whoa, okay, great. So that's, like you said, it's huge advantages there in terms of flexibility, control, and overall money making for sure. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I love this topic. I could talk about this topic all day, but I do want to bring it back to the marketing and because we talked about you guys help with selling and advertising and distributing. So I would love to get more into detail about the advertising, because that was kind of like the selling piece, but like the advertising and the distributing, kind of talk about how that comes into play with the services you guys provide. And just, I would love to hear your expertise on those topics.
Well, good. I appreciate that because the distribution part is so new to our business, and I love that we're there. The reason why it exists now, and we're still trying to figure out the tinkerings of it, is because this is along with the big content creation boom that we were talking about. There is also a huge need for mid-sized to smaller companies. It's very new and very exciting to us in terms of supply chain locally is very hard for people. So if you're a small to mid-tier company that works with beverages, or you're trying to get into restaurants, retail in your local area, it's extremely expensive. And for shipping to make sense for a lot of these businesses, it's like $2,500 just to take a pallet of something from California to Washington or whatever it is. It's absurd. So like distribution business and the media business kind of changed like that, and the same principles that we want to use. And I think I told you one example already, but we're developing a program with a warehouse that looked at the same thing that we did and said, we're going to build this warehouse where it's going to be a full service warehouse that does everything besides the delivery of the actual product. It'll take orders. You can have an office, da, 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 da. So when we're talking with this company, we're going, well, is anyone promoting the products while they're here and being distributed and doing that? And they're like, no, we would love to do that. So not only are we able to advertise this new product that we love, and we're going to do a lot of vetting, but we're actually physically going to be able to distribute and deliver that product to our other clients that we've already established in the city. Some of them are restaurants, some of them are retail, some of them are gathering places. But, you know, the one thing that I would tell you is, along with the media part, I don't know if it's happening in Pittsburgh, but here it's like everyone wants to go back to hyper local. A lot of the people that are in our age range are scrapping the big box stores. Those are going under, and everybody's going, oh, look at this. And I'm going, no, this is great. We're going to go back to mom and pop shops. Like, everyone wants to go back to mom and pop shops. The 20, 30, 40-year-old store owners are now starting to spread across all over the place. And they're small. They're 400 square feet. They're 500 square feet. It's a bread maker next to a cider maker next to, and you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when my parents were growing up. The local milkman delivering the thing, the local produce coming back to the door, like all of this. And you can't advertise that anymore the way you used to. So, you know, I think with the power of distribution, delivery, and advertisement, you will see so many better, new, and local products. And that's happening in every city there, Emma. So that's like a year into what we're doing in this particular spot of the business. But one of the things that we tried with is, I hope you don't mind me shouting them out. Look them up, is Reading Soda Works. Reading Soda Works is in Reading, PA. It had been around since 1921, and these family owners that have owned it for about 7 to 8 years. We're still in the middle of figuring out how to get from Reading to Bucks County, Pennsylvania, to Montco to Philadelphia. Like, how do we start this chain? So they are so great partners and so willing to go through an enormously headache process to figure this out. But when it's done, I think we will have a new way of doing business, and that's exciting to me. So that's basically where our head's at with that.
I think that's really cool. Coming from the background of logistics and resource planning, I think like the distribution piece, it can be very overwhelming, and it's under, not a lot of people are prepared for that or think about that when they start these small businesses, of all the costs that go into it, that's going to eat into their margins. Because my husband works with a lot of, now these guys are service providers, and they have costs for like, construction or electrical or HVAC, like all those people. And they're talking about, oh, I lose money, or they don't know if they lose money, or because I'm like, you're not tracking like what goes into it. And people forget, like, shipping, like the labor to package this stuff, that should be all factored into your product per unit. So I'm geeking out now, but like that, and then they're just not fiscally responsible. But I just see like what you're saying makes total sense, even in our area. Like the breweries, the distilleries, the events, the places, because people miss the in-personness, that these in-person businesses are booming again, like the coffee shops, they're not just selling, you know, the product, they're selling the experience or the vibe, and they capitalize on these influencers or bloggers or Instagrammers or TikTokers, and especially like hyper focused into Pittsburgh. Like I find most of my events, we were just having this conversation the other day, I find most of my events because of people I follow on Instagram. Like I follow these bloggers or these influencers, and they'll post about an event. I'm like, oh, to my husband, I'll be like, oh, we should go there this weekend, or oh, we should do this, or oh, we should do that. So like I can see the trend happening, and it makes total sense now that you're saying it. I love that you're bringing in the distribution piece to help mitigate that too, because they don't know how to tackle it, or they don't want to have to tackle it, because they want to focus on the core piece of what they're providing, that product or the service.
And it's the reason why that was like a light bulb moment for us is because of the influencer programs that everybody had worked with for years and years and years. And when people would get into those and expect the results of like, hey, you know, people should be coming in if there's 5,000 views on your TikTok or whatever it is. And those things weren't happening. Or if it's more e-com and you're giving a link to an influencer and you're not seeing the sales, but you're seeing a ton of attention, you know, then then I think that's a huge problem. Like, then why are
Right.
you paying that person then? If it didn't convert sales, and if that creator doesn't know that their job is to convert sales on who they're working with, that's a bad partner. Like I
Yep.
think too many influencers are that way. So the same
Yep.
thing with when I do, oh man, here's another conversation we get. Have you ever media bought or done any media buying or had conversations with people who do media buy?
No, I haven't gotten into that yet.
It's excruciating. Just so you know, I'm not
Okay,
even going to
okay.
get into it because it's so like archaic and whatever. But
Yes.
media buying companies are judging your show and value and business based on like a bunch of different parameters, and they come up with this number that you're worth, which is absurd. It's stupid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So those people can't even guarantee you that it's working, and you're paying them a lot of money. So you're paying all these people a lot of money. You're not seeing a ton of the
Yeah.
results. The analytics are telling you it's really good, but you don't have any sales. So I go, well, then why can't we fucking put products literally in places for
Um,
people and show them that we can advertise it and put them in the space? That's unbeatable. Like, that's what we want to
yep.
do for a lot of places, and that started because of our relationship with Liquid Death Mountain Water. Have you ever heard of them before?
Yes. Yes, I have.
So they are somebody that we were huge. Speaking of just loving things that you love, right? We
Yeah.
loved the CEO from Liquid Death. He loved our Eagles podcast. And we started a relationship back in like 2018, 17, before they were this little company. And now, like, they're the
Yep.
most popular, probably, brand in the world or whatever it is, which is not only advantageous for us and them, but that's where the idea came from. Is just like, guys, like, we want to put these in bars and sell for you while we're doing the podcast. And it has evolved over
Right.
3.5, 4 years, 5 years to this. So, just like to kind of put a whole button on our convo, you
Yeah.
don't realize the relationships you had as an employee and how much they're going to help you in terms of entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And most of those relationships, if they are good, they'll want to support whatever it is you're doing. It's so
Yep.
much more freeing. It's so much more in control, as you said, Emma. It's so much more flexible to just be on this side. And especially now, I probably wouldn't have told you this 10 years ago. I would say, whatever makes you happy, make your decisions. Working for
Yep.
somebody for the next 10 years is absurd to do. Even if you're thinking about
Yep.
it, get out right away. Otherwise, you're going to lose major opportunity and time, and you're going to hate yourself in 10 years. You're going to hate it. So
Oh, yeah.
that's my take, Emma.
That's your take. I love that take because I feel so strongly about it too. And that just like my 2 cents on it is there are just from this perspective of I see a lot of online coaches, online people there. It's that's going to fizzle out. And I really feel like people like you and your agency and your teams, like the service providers, because I do service providing as well, is like those are the people that are going to stick around. The coaches and these online trends of just giving out this advice and just providing this education is definitely going to fizzle because the business owners truly need people to take things off their plate. Like they need the advertising taking off. They needed the distribution piece. Like they want to go to more full service, like service providers who are actually going to help them do the things. So it's not just going to be the coaches or like you said, influence marketers, especially if you're not converting for those clients that you have or those partnerships that you were just talking about. That's my 2 cents is like those are the trends that are going to fade. You want to be into something that's literally like, it's going to last. These trends that are just a fad right
Especially with
now.
the
Sorry, I'm
coaches.
like out of
You were
breath.
dead on that. No, no, no. The coaches, you were dead on with the coaching. Cause like, if you're not doing it while you're coaching us, why the fuck am I
Hmm.
paying you? Or why am I listening to you?
Yep.
So at 100%, Emma, 100%.
Agree. Well, I thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I would love for you to just, before we part and our audience leaves, what is one key takeaway? Because we did cover so much that you would like the audience to walk away with.
All of this can be reduced down to basically a couple of sentences, which is this: make sure you know who you are. Actually,
Mm,
just one sentence: make sure you know who you are. Self-awareness is going to lead to everything that you want. You are going to fight so many things that are yourself that you don't realize at this moment. And you're going, no, John, I know who I am. No, you don't. I promise you, keep
No.
asking what makes you happy. Keep asking you why you keep doing the certain things you're doing. And even if you don't have an answer, trust your feelings on what that triggers the moment you ask yourself that question. Because if it doesn't feel right, find out why it doesn't feel right. And if it feels good, keep pursuing that, you know? So
Yes.
and this is not to say like, yes, you're going to have anxiety in your life. Anxiety is a good thing too. Anxiety is good and bad. It motivates you
Mm-hmm.
and it can fuck you up. So I get it, but you need anxiety to survive. It's a good thing. Don't shut down just because you're nervous about taking that step or solving that problem. Be self-aware, know where you're going to fall, and know where you need help. That will lead you to success every time.
Oh, I love that. I wish we would have started with that. I could go on a rant for all of those, but that is such good advice and it's so true. Thank you so much, John, for joining us today.
Thank you, Emma.